join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. The first order of business, or second now, is the approval of the April 16, 2025 meeting minutes. Have you had an opportunity to look at the minutes?
Yes, I have.
Any suggestions for additions, omissions, or corrections that need to be made?
Not for me. I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 16th.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. We'll move on to the next thing, and that is a public hearing concerning the additional appropriation of the town of Markle redevelopment district. Okay. So this is resolution
2025-3.
2025. Well, we have another hearing on the appropriation. It's the same thing then.
Yeah, but that resolution goes with the public hearing. Public hearing is for that
Yeah,
resolution.
gotcha. So do we have anybody to speak on this first before?
Rich, you want to say anything?
So all this is doing is appropriating the proceeds that for the bonds that you're issuing for the redevelopment for purchase of land.
Okay.
And the closing is scheduled for May 28th, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the money will come in, and so you're just appropriating it for the use of the purchase of land.
And for the purposes of recording, could we have your name, please?
Oh, Richard Starkey with Law Firm of Barnes and Thornburg.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stark?
No.
Not for me either, thank you. I'll incorporate that as a summary of the resolution to do that. Did you guys have any discussion or anything else at all? So before we open up to a public hearing?
Nope.
Okay, public hearing is open on this.
I'll speak as the head of the RTC. Obviously, we have approved with unanimous vote to purchase this land and issue bonds for this purchase. This will allow us to then go and secure the land under our umbrella, but then I'll go and approve, send out for other grants as we search out. But it secures the land first, so we don't have a long-term goal of owning this forever. We're just wanting to actually secure this now, and then that'll allow for the next stage of submitting for grants. But the way to keep this residential check moving is actually put it in our hands to allow our development group to do that. So.
And the bonds, for the survey district, the bonds don't exceed $438,000.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments on this public hearing at all?
You know, I would comment, just so you are aware, so this is set up with the idea that you probably will not sell the land to somebody. You'll probably, give it as part of an incentive. But in fact, if you do end up selling any of the land, we will need to pay down those proceeds, the bonds, because for federal tax purposes, the government doesn't like the fact that you could issue tax-exempt bonds and then profit from the sale to a private party. So just a heads up, it's understand.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other comments from the public on this at all? If not, then I'll close the hearing. So with regards to the resolution, do we go ahead and move forward then with passing it? So I don't have any other further comments, gentlemen. I'll make a motion that we pass resolution number 2025-3.
I'd second that.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. Do you need a signed copy?
Yes.
Okay.
Rich has a copy, and then, you know what, we'll just take care of my copy of it.
Okay.
It's on that, so just sign his. And
See if my signature will fit. Drive safe.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll move on then if there's nothing else on this. And now we'll move on to ordinance 2025-3, the fair housing ordinance. The ordinance here is, well, first of all, do we have anybody to speak on this specifically? Okay. The ordinance is consistent also something that we discussed last evening at a meeting. This is a policy that within the constitutional limits of fair housing through the corporate limits was provided under the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1968 and the Federal Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. In this general ordinance, you can read where that there are definitions of what they consider to be a dwelling, a family, of persons to rent, discriminatory housing practices, handicap, which is still an interesting term that they still use that, an aggrieved person, familial status commission, and complaint. They also go into some of the different types of unlawful practices that could happen under this. And they discuss what the dwelling of the business, what is a business or a renting dwelling. Section 4 discusses the discrimination in the sale of or rental of housing, the refusal to sell or rent, a modified maker to discriminate against a person in terms and conditions, to print, publish, or cause to print any notice with respect to the sale of the dwelling that indicates a preference of race, to represent that a person of race of those protected classes are not available for inspection for profit, to attempt to induct any person in the dwelling regarding the entry or prospective entry, to discriminate the sale or rental on those protected classes, to discriminate against any person in terms, conditions, or privileges. And then they talk about what kind of discrimination occurs on that. Section 5 talk about discrimination in residential real estate related transactions. Section 6 talks about discrimination of the provision of brokerage services. Section 7, interference, coercion, and intimidation. Section 8, the prevention of the intimidation in fair housing cases. Section 9, the equal access to housing and under the HUD program. But they do have some exemptions under Section 10 and 11. Talks about how to enforce this ordinance. And Section 12 is a lawyer speak for severability of provisions. That's something that is pretty common in most communities to have this kind of ordinance. And since it's an ordinance that doesn't affect finance, that's something we can pass on the first reading. Any comments or discussion if we want to, anything you guys want to say on this?
Nothing for me.
Not for me.
I'll make a motion then that we adopt it as General Ordinance 2025-3.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries unanimously. Now we're going to the Sortera CF1s.
Yep, so these are just the compliance forms for their existing abatements already. All we need to do is, Matt, you'll need to sign them as long as you guys think they're in compliance. I know Nick was just out there recently. And we don't have a rep here or anything tonight for us, so, yep.
Any comments, Nick?
No, everything, obviously they have a lot of things moving in there, but I saw actually their newest projects being worked on as well.
How recently, I don't want to keep bothering them every year, but how recently was it? Was it within the last year you went out there?
Oh, a month ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was just there, just there. That's
Okay,
why I was
so-
like, no
so
one
that's
probably
fine.
needs to visit.
I want to get out there myself sometime, but I don't want to do it like I just kind of want to see it. But I think I'll wait till next year or something like that, okay?
Yeah.
Any concerns about me signing this? Yes?
No.
Okay, all right, I'll do that.
Okay, they're in the red folder when we're done. You can
Yep,
sign.
that's fine. Let's move on to town correspondence. We did get one from the right to provide. This one I do read the entire part of it, but first of all, it does say, to whom it concerns, it's an annual fundraiser for the 20th year held on August 16, 2025. The event includes a motorcycle ride, raffle drawing, 50-50 drawing, live auction, kids raffle, kids craft, bake sale, bingo, and benefit dinner each year. The funds raised for an individual family. They're requesting donation items for the raffle prizes and money, basically. That the recipient this year is Dave Jackson, and here's the story about Dave. After discussing some subtle but persistent symptoms, a colonoscopy was scheduled for December 23, 2024. During the colonoscopy, the doctor discovered a collectoral tumor. On December 27th, the results were confirmed, stage 2A adenocarcinoma, colorectal cancer. Dave's treatment includes chemotherapy infusions every 3 weeks, followed by 2 weeks of oral chemotherapy. Oral chemotherapy will continue with Dave trips to Fort Wayne for 6 weeks of radiation. Dave's doctors are confident he'll fight this tumor and possibly avoid major colorectal surgery, but the reality is surgery may be needed. They also include some pictures of family members and some more discussion on that in a flyer about this. Last year, we gave $500. I think that should be the amount I think we gave this year.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, so moving on then to the next correspondence. Well, this is from John Gray. Here's
Oh,
Sorterra.
okay, yeah, sorry.
Here's Sorterra. We'll go to Sorterra one because that's the next one in order. This is just the air quality permit applications update. This notice is given to us because there's property that nearby the company is permitted, and because you represent the national entity, that this notice of decision letter provides additional information about the final process. And it's on page 2. The notice of decision was approval for the registration under IDEM. Okay. Any questions? Anything else on that? All right. Letter from John Gray and his family. Dear Town of Markle, thank you very much for the beautiful flowers and sympathy for the loss of our husband, father, grandfather, Marvin Tudor. We are so grateful for your thoughtfulness. Moving on then to the operations manager report.
Several things. Water main project, SRF has approved phase 1 construction, so that could start potentially soon. We did have Holly is no longer with us as our engineer. We now have Casey Irwin. Casey has been involved in some Markle stuff here and there over the years. Does a great job. We had, as you know, a few hiccups and some delays, but we're working them out. So if you have any updates that you want to.
Yeah, if I may, just kind of at least approach the board.
Sure.
If you just want to go ahead and just say your name.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Casey Irwin, I'm with DLZ out of the Fort Wayne
Thank you.
office.
Appreciate it.
Nope, if I may approach the board, this is an update that we will try to give to Mike, and then we can also, it can be presented to council either on a periodic basis or a monthly, bi-monthly basis. Just gives you an update on where some of these items are at, so we'll implement this a little bit more. So in no way do I want to hit everything, but as Mike said, it's important for us, for you to know this transition. Most of these projects, I know where they're at, so I will be a project manager on going forward. Again, there's a handful of things here on the drinking water project. As Mike said, we finally got SRF to approve that phase 1 construction, which, as you know, with Lee and Sparks, that's our priority, is to get that project moving. The complicated part about that is it involves community crossing funding and SRF funding, and a lot of the stuff SRF was looking at was Lee and Sparks, but they were also looking at our entire application. So we finally did get them on board that we can start. Right now we're looking at end of July, early August per the contractor. So that's our target date on that. We'll be meeting with Mike and the contractor next week, kind of going over some details, and then we'll have a pre-construction meeting with SRF. With that, just so council's aware, even though you're paying with ban funds on the water and using community crossing funding, that project has to be administered as if it's an SRF project. So we know that procedure. I'll work with Mike and Stephanie on that, and we'll make sure that's done correctly. Other than that, there's a few things on the water project we'll be working with Mike on the next probably 30 to 60 days, kind of narrowing in some of the other projects. And then other than that, there's just some open items there that we're working on. If you go to the next sheet, North Lee Street is the north section. So if you recall, the bigger project was API, Lee and Sparks, and then the north section of Lee is actually a different contractor that you awarded that to Brooks. That would be later in the fall after API comes in and puts the water main in. So Lee and Sparks will be busy this summer and fall because we got multiple contractors, 2 different funding agencies. So our priority is to make that as smooth as possible. It is a construction project, but that's our goal.
Okay.
So, other than that, like I said, this is just a general update. We'll try to provide a little bit more on a more routine basis so that council knows and also Stephanie and Mike know where we're at on various items. I'm available at any time for any questions. On the projects, you'll probably also see me more often at the meetings if we have action items. And then we'll also have some more staff members involved on your projects as well. So, again, didn't want to take a lot of your time. It was just important for us to relay that to council.
Thank you. Do appreciate the update, so we'll have their comments for it. Any questions? No. Okay.
There was supposed to be CF1 for Wayne Metal tonight. However, Jessica Best was in another meeting that we had to leave. I think she tried to send me the CF1 documents, but we can't seem to open them.
They're too big.
They're too big. So she would like to get the CF1 stuff signed as soon as possible. This is going to be in reference to the $6+ million addition that Wayne Metal has completed. I know I've been through it. I think you've been through it, Nick, haven't you? I mean, it's
What's that?
Did you look at
The,
Wayne
Wayne Metal
Yeah.
expansion stuff.
I mean, I was there part of like the ground day, but I haven't gone through like since it's been done.
I'd like to go by it, go through there.
Okay. There was a portion or document that they failed to file in time. I forget the number on that one. So we're going to have to do similar to what we did with Sorterra and give them a waiver because they didn't get that document in time.
Okay.
So that won't be a problem. We're done. We just did that with Sorterra.
So what kind of time frame do they need everything to go through?
Well, I mean, I'll have to get with her because I couldn't open that file to get the CF1 documents.
The way it sounded when you said it to me was for the June meeting, we'll have
Okay.
that resolution like we
Okay.
passed for Sorterra, right?
Yeah, we can do that. But I'll get with her and see if she needs the CF1 document signed before that.
Yeah.
If that's an issue,
That's fine.
we may have to just figure it out.
All right.
So,
Real quick, by the way, like I said, the other gentleman, you can stay if you want, but don't feel like you have to.
Oh, no, I understand.
Okay.
Totally understand. I
That's
appreciate
cool.
the offer though.
Okay.
the sewer main project that we applied for some Okra funding to do that. We had a site meeting a couple days ago, or was it yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
There is a lot
It
of
was.
stuff, I mean, a lot.
And we got some action items.
We have several action items that we're going to try and accomplish. This is a very, very competitive process. I'm just gonna say there's a high probability we will not get it. However, we will get a lot of feedback that we can adjust and then reapply in the future. So if we don't get it, it's not a bad thing. I think it's good that we actually applied, we're going through the process, and we're getting these action items taken care of so that we'll score better.
Well, yeah, we'll be better staged up on and more responsive and ready for when it comes to next time.
This was also a very short time frame.
It is.
Yeah, so next time we'll have more time to actually the process maybe won't be as daunting, I guess, because there's so much, but we'll have gone through it, and I think it'll be helpful to have had this, like Mike and I were talking about, but yeah, it's a lot, and it's not very much time.
I'll wait till you get done on this topic and I'll add whatever else.
Oh, no, we haven't.
Okay. One of the things you guys might have seen was an email about to update portions of the employment handbook, and they specifically wanted to see an update. They saw, like, for example, a drug-free workplace policy. They said it was insufficient, and so they're like, well, you can use the federal one. Well, the federal one goes on for like 45 pages, and we didn't want to adopt that into the handbook. So I said, well, wait a minute, the state, if Okra has their own workplace policy, so that one should be good enough. So that's what we're gonna do, is we're gonna talk with Mike Harper, we're gonna adopt that as a part of that drug-free workplace policy as a part of the town of Markle policy. But what I talked to Mike about, instead of even that much lengthy, is just saying, hey, here's a summary of the policy. If you want more information, or if you want to know how this applies, go to this separate document. And that's where it'd be more fully explained, as opposed to adding 6 or 7 more pages to the handbook. Fair housing, that was the other one, the FHA stuff there.
The fair housing, the one we just passed, that was part of it, that was part of that admin that we had to do for that.
Yeah, okay. The other thing is the deadline to get everything in is on June 20th. Our next meeting's on June 18th, and I don't know how you gentlemen feel, but I'm not comfortable with, because we have to have a public hearing on this, and we have to give a minimum of 11 days notice. It's gotta be more than 10 days notice. So, and we can't do it, well, let me get into this. We have to have a public hearing on it. We have to have some people comment on it in the public. If we get people who can also write letters in support of the project, we can add that in, and that will help our score out, our competitiveness. So people from the community to write letters. We can have up to 7 pages of letters. That doesn't mean 7 letters. It could be 7 pages of letters. It could be little short blurbs, note cards, or whatever. That's how the community can help us get through, and getting this project and the funding on this project through OCRA will make our rates less that we have to charge on the residents for that. So that's how I think most residents would support that. The problem is I'm not comfortable with giving our person only 2 days to get it all in. Really, it's gotta be a day and a half. She doesn't get a full 48 hours to do it after our meeting. So I like to suggest that we have a special hearing sometime before then to do this. The problem I'm running into is this, as I go on vacation the first week of June. So, and we can't do it before June because we gotta give it 10 days notice. What do your guys' calendar look like between the 9th and the 13th?
So mine is actually more open because I'm gone actually the week of the 16th.
Okay. Will you be here for the meeting?
No.
Okay.
So if we wanted to shift that meeting in general,
We could. We could do that. I don't know, it depends on what Blake's like. I'm
I'm
busy
not
that week.
available on the 9th or the 11th.
Okay.
what about the 10th?
I will be in court down in Indiana. I won't be able to make it back.
Thursday the 12th?
Thursday the 12th I can do.
You can do?
I can.
I can do it in the evening. I gotta take my dog down for her post-op. It's gotta be all weekend. So, yeah, if we can do the 12th the evening, that work for you guys? Have same time, same bench, so, okay.
Alright, is that going to take place at our regular meeting?
And I think that'd be a good idea. That way that can be.
Well, are we gonna be able to do that? Well,
Nope.
No, because we can't move our regular meeting, because then it'll screw up the timeline for. She needs that time to get it.
well, I know, that's what I'm saying, because if we take the 12th and do our regular meeting on the 12th, that gives her a whole extra, that's why we're doing that meeting, is for a public hearing.
Right.
For OCRA.
But in addition, we're still gonna do our normal meeting on the 18th.
I don't know, that's what I'm
If
asking.
we don't have to, I would rather just move everything to the 12th.
Well,
Is there
let's-
anything that needs to be done, that can't be done on the 12th? It's a better question.
That's what I was asking Mike.
I think
Well,
she was needing the time, I don't know.
Are you talking about, what's her name?
Sandra?
Sandra?
Sandra.
Because I suggested to her, she would love to have an extra week to be able to get everything after the public hearing.
Right,
Yeah, is
that's
there
what I'm saying.
anything else on that would need to be on the 18th is my question.
Besides this
Like,
Okra stuff,
because if,
like that Sortera.
yeah, that's what I was kinda
Yeah.
getting at, was like,
Oh, no, the Wayne Metals thing.
the way, yeah. Do you wanna tentatively say the 12th, or actually, we can schedule one for the 12th no matter what. We can do some research on what will need to be done in June, and then if we can, then we'll cancel if we're
That's
able
fine.
to. Does that
Let's-
work?
But let's, at a minimum, let's set the notice for a public hearing to be
Yes.
on the 12th, at a
Yes.
minimum.
At 7?
Yeah, at 7, and then if it turns out that we can just call this our regular meeting,
Yep.
we'll do that. Just we'll do what's appropriate under the Indiana code.
Yep, that works for me. Let's not decide to cancel that one just yet.
I think the thing for Wayne Metals, we have to do a public hearing for as well.
That's what, yeah, so there might be, but we'll have time to do it, as long as she, is,
We just have to have everything posted.
yeah.
Yep. The big one is
So
in
we'll have to ask Jessica to get that stuff, because we'll have to set up a public hearing for that too.
Yes.
And they'll have
it comes down to, guys, is, I don't know, guys, persons in this room, is we gotta show that Okra is the best last option, and demonstrate that we've looked at other alternatives and things, so. This is gonna be a good thing if we get it, so, but understand that we probably won't. I'll put the chances at 41.3%.
Oh, that's high.
I think that's being optimistic.
Yeah.
Go with it.
All right, anything else on that at all?
No, so I had, as Steph knows, I've been going crazy applying for grants. If I find a grant that I think might be applicable to something, I just put your time in and apply for, so. I applied for an AARP grant, it wasn't awarded. I reached out for feedback. They said they would not, this is the first time they wouldn't give feedback because they have 3,500 applications. So I'm not surprised I didn't get that one. I did get a Duke Energy grant. I'm trying to assist the fire department with some equipment replacement. They were not eligible, however, the town was eligible to apply for it because we fund the fire department. So I kind of circumvented that. We did get an award there. I also got an award from Wells County, Visit Wells County to help with some advertising. We did get that grant. There are some expenses that we've been incurring annually, like the stage. We technically don't own the stage, it's in the park. We have this agreement with the park that, we kind of run the stage, we operate the stage. I take care of the state permit fees, stuff like that. It's $500 for the permit to be renewed every year. Also, the new garden that we just put in, community garden, we're into that project now for about $1,000. I've already spent this money, but I'd like to know where we're taking it from, because I don't want to just keep spending money. Steph suggested we take it out of seeded. I just want to make sure that that's okay with council.
Fine with me.
Yep.
I think the best what we get from that is a town benefit, not just a park benefit, so.
That's what I thought, it's definitely, it brings people in, it's.
Sure does.
Yep.
I took a picture last Sunday afternoon. There were 8 or so people down there all talking in the community garden.
Aww.
It was just, it's like, I sent it to Mike, said, this is why we did this.
Come at 4 o'clock, there's gonna be people there almost every
Very
Sunday.
cool, yeah.
It was cool.
And I think it'll grow.
Oh, yeah.
Football, nice.
And Amber with Bronxenberry did apply for a grant, through the hometown grant,
Okay.
to purchase a shed to put equipment in. So as this gets bigger and bigger, they've got a place to put that stuff. And then she was awarded those funds, so they're gonna park the shed there and put stuff in. So
We probably better inform the church,
yes.
make sure that that's okay.
Yeah, after she got the grant, well, originally she told me, oh, I applied for this grant for this little shed. I'm like, oh, that's no big deal, we can just pick it up and move it, no big deal.
Yeah.
Well, then she said, hey, I got the grant, it's a 8x10 shed. I'm like, what?
I don't foresee any problems, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
well,
need to run that up the flagpole.
If there's an issue, we could always just put it on the other side of the street.
I don't think there will be an issue.
We can move it ourselves
Yeah.
with the equipment that we have also. Cool, so we'll take that stuff out of seeded. The chamber, Lisa couldn't be here tonight, but the chamber would, historically, we don't come to the town and ask for funds unless we absolutely need to. In 2021, we requested some funds, we did not in 22. We came back in 23, gave us some funds we did not ask in 24. We're coming to the town in 2025 to see if the town would be willing to help financially support some of the activities that the chamber puts on in the community. We did cut back on some things. We're no longer going to do Christmas in our town. We're no longer going to do the trunk or treating stuff. Not that we don't want someone to maybe do that stuff. However, the chamber's just not going to financially support it anymore. We're trying to cut down on some stuff and focus on the things that we feel are more beneficial to the community, like the concerts, fireworks, things like that. So.
Any new ideas or anything to replace some of those things at all?
I think right now we're just gonna focus on the stuff that we're getting the best bang for our buck.
Okay.
And right now that just seems to be the concerts, the fireworks. We are kind of working, and we're gonna try and work hand in hand with a couple other groups. They're putting on some stuff. The Man Cave Men's Group, the church, they're doing some things. And So historically, it's usually been about $1,500 is what the town has given to the chamber. 21, in years past, it's been 1,500, and 21 it was 1,500, and 23 it was 25, but I think that was a special thing.
Yeah, specifically for fireworks, I believe. Or no, it was
It was
something with the park.
something with the stage or something, I think.
It was a specific ask.
Yeah.
But generally, it's about 1,500.
Yeah.
I think we just, but
I'd
that,
even recommend bumping it to
That's
2
correct.
grand.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say, just because that kind of was adjusted to inflation for 5 years ago. Let's go with that, a couple grand.
Yep.
You go good with that?
Sure.
Okay.
And I think the last thing I got is we're online now. We did it ourselves significantly cheaper than the quotes that we had gotten. So we thought we'd test run it tonight, see how it sounds. If everything's good, then that'll keep us in compliance with the state. Move forward with it. You guys look pretty each month.
Start washing my hair.
Yeah, I'll wait till I get my hair done.
That's all I got unless you have questions.
Nope, no questions. Any questions for you?
None for me.
HQ report,
Nothing from HQ'd.
Region 3A, just that meeting with Okra, yesterday. We talked about that, I'll drop that as a 3A
Did
report.
we lose a Region 3A lady or guy?
No, we lost
Matt.
it right now.
Yeah,
He's
Frank,
stepped down.
yeah, so, she's taking his place, right?
Yes. Yes, Andrew, Tim
Tamez.
Tamez, is that right?
T-A-M-E-Z.
Okay.
I'm not sure where the emphasis is, but
She's knowledgeable. She worked with Matt for 10 years.
Yeah. And she's sharp as far as getting, most of the things that Ogre was asking for, she had already turned in, or just a matter of just tweaking up and waiting for the application, portal to open up again, so no concerns. Nothing else I did on Region 3, we'll move on to limited public comments and questions.
I just have a couple of dates to throw out there. Upcoming Sunday, June 22nd is our Markle Day. We are live on the website now. I was able to get tabletops and posters up everywhere, so we have 30 people registered already for about 180 needed jobs. So just if our news banner could help us out back there to remind people to sign up for the Markle Day.
No pressure.
We have some awesome projects that we're gonna get done around the town. We've got a huge list this year, and it's gonna be a visual impact. I mean, it's gonna be great. So we need as many volunteers for that as possible. Also, we have the date lined up for what it looks like is now going to be an annual meetup in the park barbecue. That is Saturday, September the 27th. So make sure everybody puts that on their calendar also.
September 27th.
September 27th, yes. So, that.
You're gonna have to remind me about September 26th.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, if you don't wanna go down and get free smoked meat, I'm not gonna remind you, so.
it was a pretty good meal last year.
It was a phenomenal meal. It was, I think if we didn't repeat that, there were a few of us that would lose our heads. I mean, people were pretty excited about that. It was a good day. It was a great day.
Be good to see if we can get, cause I think we did have a contribution towards it last year. I'll see if we can get some similar to that this year, just to help out defray the cost a little.
Appreciate that. Yeah, the Man Cave Men's Group funded the majority of that last year, and we're planning on doing it again. But, Mike, do we have a date? Have you figured out what date we're gonna do Cars and Coffee again yet?
We need to figure that out.
Yeah, we will be doing that though, at
I
least
assume
once.
it's gonna wind up probably be a July date.
Yeah, July or August, sometime in there, yeah. So, in between the big June 22nd date and the July 27th date, we'll try and squeeze it in there somewhere. But,
Anything else?
yeah, that's right, I'll be there for that. So,
Anything else?
no,
I think it might not be a bad idea to put on our agenda just some upcoming things, like community events, like I know we have a car show coming up, something like that.
Sunday, June 8th.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting it because it'd be good for, just when people walk by and they see the notes, oh, okay, I might not go to the meeting, but I can see that. Speaking of Markle, I'm hoping that there is some manual labor stuff to do because I have to go in for back surgery on the end of June, June 27th. So the 2 weeks after, I will be completely out of commission.
Well, we definitely need volunteers for finishing up painting the tennis court fence. So please sign up for
I
that
wanted
one.
to do the physical labor stuff, the real physical, like breaking rocks like I did last
Oh,
year.
okay, gotcha.
Because this will be my last time I get.
Well, we already had a ton of people. You'd be surprised how many people have signed up for the tree line removal. We probably have that team filled up already.
I'll be happy to paint the.
Where's that one at?
That's at the walkway park there, right behind the nursing home, that old fence line with just trash trees, and we're gonna clean every bit of that out and then put, get it looking nice, because it's an eyesore. And kind of a danger in there, because there are broken off fence posts, and you got little kids climbing around and playing, they don't need to impale themselves on a broken off fence post, so. No, we got a lot around town, we're gonna be power washing all the sidewalks downtown. Quite a few projects down at the park again this year. So, yeah, we've got a lot lined up. So, we didn't think we were going to have it first, did we, Mike? And then it's every meeting, it just continues to grow. And, okay, here we go. That'll be good.
So, even though I'll be out, I will, our July meeting is at the 16th.
Yes.
Okay, that'll also be my 56th birthday.
Oh,
Oh, wow. You're just a
that's
young
exciting.
pup.
Huh?
That's exciting.
No cake.
What a way to spend your birthday.
Yeah, no, that's fine, it's just work. So, yeah, that's it. Anything else on public comments or questions? Let's go to old business, I don't believe we have any. Let's move on to clerk treasurer report.
All right, I had 83 vouchers in general for $141,327.50, 18 water for $38,567.36, 19 in wastewater, $58,399.05 for a total of 120 vouchers and $238,293.91. I don't have anything else to report. We've covered all the upcoming events. The only thing I will say, we're meeting again before then, but I'll just throw it out there anyway. Cheryl and I were not going to have overlapping vacations this year, but we had to move our reservation because somebody in my vacation party, my mom now has to, it's a whole thing. Anyway, so she had to, because of work, change her schedule, or change our vacation. So there will be a few days in July. I leave on the 27th, and Cheryl, she's kind of still up in the air. I don't know if she's for sure going, but will probably both be gone the week of the 30th through the 4th, which we're closed the 4th. Mike said, we did this last year, when he was here, he left the office open. There's not anything due that week, there's nothing, there's no meetings or anything, so we will be closing sporadically, open sporadically on that week. Just FYI, just wanted to give you a heads up. I should know more for sure if Cheryl's closer to the date, if she'll actually be gone or not, but as of right now, we will both be out of the state for that week, so.
I can stop by and just answer questions.
There you go.
My answer will be, I don't know.
I don't know, I think that's what Mike does when we're gone. I don't know.
Ask
No,
him
he
to get
does a
back.
good job. He takes water bills, and if it's something he doesn't know, he'll tell him, come back next week, or
Yeah,
give us a call, email.
I think we'll be fine.
So, that's all I have.
If there's nothing else then, any other things for Stephanie, then I'll make a motion to approve her report and pay the vouchers.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve and pay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned at 7:39, 19:39.